Hi, welcome to Hitting Home. We're here with Wayne Hay, Chair of the Downtown Barrie Business Association and Commercial Realtor with Remax Commercial, and Craig Stevens, who is the Managing Director of the Downtown Barrie Business Association. And as you might have guessed, we're talking about the Downtown Barrie Business Association today. Perhaps, Craig, you can start by giving us a little bit of information about what you guys are all about.
Yeah, sure. So the Downtown Barrie Business Association, our little acronym after that is the BIA, which is a business improvement area. So just a really quick sort of history, a business improvement area is a formal association. Way back in 1970 when the first one was developed, it was literally a group of property owners sitting around the table, much like us as we are right now. And at that time, the onset of the malls were coming, suburbia was coming, and as the property owners, sort of feeling that movement and that shift, decided that collectively, they needed to come together, and if they could somehow improve the public space between their buildings, then that would indirectly benefit their businesses that were in their buildings, and then maintain or increase the property value of the buildings that they own. And so one of the key differences that a BIA is compared to, say, other associations that people are familiar with, whether it's the Chamber or Tourism Association, is that at that point in time, they had to determine or decide what was the best way to stay sustainable, to maintain sort of financial sustainability. And one was, a membership, buy a membership, renew it on an annual basis and go from there. But they felt that that was just, there was too much work or effort required just to sell those memberships and maintain that value. So instead, they actually decided to self-tax themselves. And so that, by default, has connected us to the municipality. And therefore, we're a special levy that's facilitated through our property tax. And that money is reinvested into a Main Street.
So membership consists of primarily
commercial property within a specific area.
the owners of the businesses and the property owners.
Yes.
So talk about some of the events or the programming that you put on to make the downtown thrive, to fulfill that mandate.
Yeah, so we've got actually four sort of key points that we focus on. So one is area marketing and animating. So telling everybody about the downtown and what's happening.
What's the name of your website?
So it's the downtownbarrie.ca.
Right.
So all that information is there. We're an event facilitator, so that means that we put on events. Some of the audience might be familiar with the Craft Beer Barbecue Festival, the Promenade Days, Canada Day celebrations. We do a bunch of other smaller events that connect the community and the businesses. Nice. We're a policy influencer, so we work with City Hall and make sure that there is an attention and a focus on the downtown. And then one of the big differences and exciting components that we do is public realm investment. So looking at the public space and making investments to make that a better spot.
So when you're the chair of the board for the Downtown BIA, and you've got the board made up of who, and what is it that you're programming or that you're directing the BIA to do?
Well, our board is a volunteer. We have 11 members. 11 members on our board. They're all volunteers. We meet once a month to continue our conversations on what our events will be and what we're trying to do. And what Craig brought up was public investment and our investment in the downtown. So one of our most recent investments, which I think we're going to allude to shortly, would be the Meridian Place project, which was what we would refer to as a P3, so public-private partnership, and the Downtown BIA was a kind of a catalyst in making that deal happen. So it was partly investment from the BIA, the City of Barrie, and funds that we raised through our fundraising program.
So our goal typically, in a broader perspective for this show, is to talk about the conversations that homeowners may be having around their kitchen table about homeownership. Buy, sell, where should I live, how should I live, some of these choices. And I guess, I think if you want to make the connection as to why we were so excited to have you on and why we really want to talk to you, is tell us about life in a downtown area. What makes a downtown thrive? What makes someone want to live downtown as opposed to sort of outside of the downtown limits, if you will?
Yeah, at downtown, that's a great point and a great question, because downtowns are are the hearts of communities. You go to your downtown, and there's history and heritage. And for us, it goes back like 200 years to the War of 1812. It's amazing the history and heritage that we have it. And that just is a real anchor and foundation to really connect to and sort of become part of the community. And you can do that, anywhere in Ontario, in the country and abroad. And if you think about, when we go and travel, usually, unless you're going to an amusement park or a specific attraction, if you're going to travel, you're going to, you want to find out what is the essence of that place that you're going to, and it's usually the main street. And so, learning about, your roots per se, if you're not from here, or sort of promoting them if you are from here, is really, really important, because your downtown, holds that all really, really closely.
And there's the two aspects. There's making it vibrant and attractive and safe for those visiting, and then also trying to create a downtown that's self-serving for the people who live there, making it walkable. And we're going to play some pictures here, and just and we'll speak on some of the projects that have already taken place, or are current, or are pending, which is going to bring more people into the downtown. In fact, why don't we go to that now, or
let's do that when we come back from the break. I want to actually, if you will, just tee that up a little bit. Wayne, as a commercial realtor, obviously you've got a professional interest in attracting business to the downtown, but you've also been working on the idea of bringing those residents into the downtown. I guess what I took away was, I don't want to say the battle versus the mall, but people typically get in their car, drive to the mall from their suburban home. And really in the downtown, these are Main Street storefronts and restaurants, et cetera, and you're trying to bring that vibrance, bring that sort of, whether it's during the 9 to 5 day or after 5 hours, to have that sustainability that you talked about. So maybe you can talk about sort of what it is that you're trying to attract in terms of housing type, and what a resident can expect when living in the downtown core.
Well, I think, Arif, what you're seeing now in the way of downtown development, and what we're hoping to see in more, is density. As the city has actually put on some of their parking lots for sale, and there actually have been a couple of deals, we want density in the downtown. We would like to see high-rise. More people we put down there, the better it is for our downtown. It's a catalyst for our businesses, and it also creates a safer environment, more eyes on the street. So with that, it becomes a more popular area. Our restaurants thrive, our retail thrives, and the more and more we can do that, the better it is for our downtown.
Good. So when we come back from the break, let's do exactly that, Mike. Let's go into some of these photos, and you can carry us through sort of, if you will, even a little bit of the evolution, maybe Barrie 20 years ago to Barrie what you see in the next 20 years.
Welcome back. We're here with Wayne Hay and Craig Stevens of the Downtown Barrie Business Association. We're going to go into some pictures here of some of the things that the Downtown Barrie Business Association is involved with, but you are really a multifaceted group, and there are some activities and functions that you also are involved in that the public may not even be aware of. Maybe you can give us a quick rundown before we go to the pictures.
So Mike, actually it's a very good question, because some of the events that the folks at home may not be aware, but Promenade Days obviously are a big event in the summertime, and then we have craft beer right after that. We do a curb appeal event, which is where we get about 140 people at one long table with 5 of our restaurants downtown, different restaurants, and it's been a huge success for us over the last I think it's 7 years now that it's been going on. And
more and more people with each new year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's become quite a hot ticket. So we're pretty proud of that one. So that's one that people may not be aware of that goes on. The tree lighting every year with fireworks is one of our big events that happens downtown. And Craig, actually, you can maybe follow through with some of our community events that also happen through too. Also.
Wayne's mentioned some great ones, and I think what's important is that in those events we really want to promote the businesses and the area as the place to for the people to come down. So, we've also do a smaller line of events. We call them Community Connects events, and they're not the big, thousands and thousands of people. They're literally down to sort of hundreds of people. And but what it does is it directly connects the the visitor or the public with a business, and then generally there's a connection to a local charity as well. And so the one that's happening, or the number of ones that are happening, could be the Hot Cocoa Trail, which is our hot chocolate. It aligns with Winterfest and obviously that time of year. We have
So
a
you don't
great
pack it in for winter. You're as busy through the winter months
Yeah.
with events.
12
as-
months,
yeah.
4 seasons.
You touched on something though. Sorry, I'm going to jump in. You touched on something because you mentioned visitor and then you sort of went residents. So give us a little bit of a balance on your focus. Are you you're working with tourism to bring new dollars in or new people in, or both, and how do you set that mix?
Yeah, no, and that's a great question. And I think the quick answer is both. I think when we look at our event, we look at something that the local resident could partake in and bring the family down. And then in that, again, sort of like we talked about earlier, is that those people that are traveling, understanding that they are trying to, they are usually going to the core, going to that main street to find out who we are and what we're all about, is having that event, tailor that visiting family from outside the area. And so, there's really a dual purpose and a dual target. Ideally, if our local community can support our main street and our downtown, and then any of the visitors that come in, that's sort of the gravy on
Right.
top, or
Excellent.
the cherry on top. Yes.
Let's
Let's do that.
I was just going to say, let's take a look at some of the bigger ticket projects that the city's involved with and the Downtown Business Association involved in. We'll just pull them up on the screen and you can walk us through them.
Yes, the patio program.
Patio program, which everybody has gone downtown and driven through and saw our patios. And actually, as we speak, some of them are coming down, but that's the end of the year. And they're up there from April till October. So big project for us. And it also brings people down after 5 o'clock at night,
And
which
this-
we're pretty proud of.
And this has been a success. It's brought people into the downtown, has it? And
Yeah.
You started with how many and how many up to these days?
So yeah, I love this story because it started with 2, and it was actually one owner, and he owned 2 properties, and that's now increased to almost 20.
Wow.
And it's over half of those that can actually put patios out. So there's a great uptake in it. There was a significant investment that these participants had to make. And what it's done is actually it's created the opportunity as a pilot project to say, what if our main street were to change a little bit? Imagine if these if these patios didn't have the built-out boardwalks. Imagine if it was sort of one sort of venue. The street became one venue, and the patios were more of a permanent fixture of it. And it's led the way to looking at opportunities to redesign Dunlop Street, which may be in the near future, which we're
some
really
other
excited.
cities have done that.
And we've been
and it's
called,
worked
actually.
well.
Just so you know, to put Pat Barrie on the back, which we should, is that we've had a number of municipalities call us on this program.
Yeah, excellent.
Now, a lot of people would think that Barrie is about the restaurants and the bar scene and stuff like that, but obviously you're trying to change that with some of your programming as well. So one of the next photos that we're going to see here that comes up, you'll tell us about how you're bringing other elements into this. So go ahead. This is a pilot, obviously, or this is a beta.
Fisher, which our association supports. I think it's a great idea, and it's in the west end of town, which we're trying to continue to bring more and more activity to the west end of town. And of course, this project would be wonderful. 650 seats, great idea.
Which
Hopefully
is,
it can
for
come
those who
together.
don't know, it's an existing theater, was part of the Barrie Central
Correct.
Collegiate,
Correct.
and now it's, I forget the group who's developing.
HIP
HIP Developments.
Correct. So it's a land
and-
swap with
yeah.
HIP and
Yeah, which is going to
the
bring
city
how many more people into the downtown living
Well,
full
again,
time?
if it's a project of a theater and a convention facility is the idea also, then if we can bring 650 people in.
But the residential component to HIP.
Oh, that is going to be, and I haven't seen the numbers of it yet. The renderings are not out, but there's definitely a high density residential component to that, which is again great for our West End.
Yeah.
And also, if I understand correctly, it's been announced that the YMCA has picked that corner for their project, which is public knowledge now, which is great. So
Again, part of a complete community, right?
complete community. So everything down, it's all being pulled in on the west side, which is great.
What else do we have here?
Let's see what's next. Okay, this is just new.
That's new and just open. We did the grand opening with the Arch and Helen Brown Design Arts facility, and it's a wonderful addition to the west end of town.
And to Georgian
And at
College
Georgian
as well.
College.
Yeah.
I mean, we're pretty proud of that to be there, and we were involved in that deal. And Good for us. It'll bring 200 to 250 students down to the area, which is
Typically, they'll be finding residents down there, whether
would
it's
be
this
some,
year or in the
yes,
near
there would be some. But again, they come in, start at 8 in the morning, go right till 10 o'clock at night, and it's good for our retailers down there, and it's good for the city to be down there.
Contributes to
Also.
the downtown economy, and it's bringing
Absolutely.
educated persons
Yep.
on board, which a lot of employers are crying out for.
I think that's, and just if I could add just quickly too, I think, we look at the 24-hour clock, 7 days a week, and we also look at the full range of demographics from students right up to seniors, and playing with all those dynamics, makes the downtown exciting and really interesting and fun to be in.
There's no single demographic in a downtown.
No.
It represents
Cross section.
Yeah.
So for the person who says, you know what, the mall is more convenient, or why would I go downtown? You're actually trying to influence that change. You're trying to bring people living here where they don't have to get in the car, where they can walk, where downtown is walkable. Bringing the residents in, as we see in this next image coming in, bringing the residents in there. They're going to, I hate to use the cliche, but eat, work, play, live, work, play in the downtown.
Yep.
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 And we'll jump over, this is the 5 points. That doesn't exist yet. That's just a concept for a project. I'm not sure what stage that is at with City Council for approval.
I think what we can tell you there is, if I'm understanding correctly, there is a site plan in for that. It's high-density residential, again, with some commercial on the lower level. It is a lovely idea. I hope it goes. But these are the kind of projects that we're talking about, is bringing the residential into the downtown.
You have the residential component embellished, and that's incentive for retailers to come
absolutely.
in and set up shop and
Absolutely.
create that whole walkable. And just to touch back on what you were saying about that exodus to the malls that created a donut effect in a lot of municipalities. I think there's kind of a reversal. We were just seeing one of our major retailers that's been around for years has now declared bankruptcy. So some of those big ticket, all-inclusive stores, that model's not surviving, and people are coming more back to the personalized boutique type of shop, which points towards the downtown. So it's kind of like we're coming full circle.
Around to it, and I know Craig
Coming
has
back
a
to the
good analogy on that.
That's
Yeah.
a great point. I was at a conference a number of years ago, and it was a planners conference, and I remember so distinctly that at that time, which again was about 4 years ago, they weren't worried about downtowns. They saw momentum and investment in the downtown. They were more worried about these power centers where they've got these large footprints and what to do with them as what's happening is happening. And I think, as you mentioned, anything that's going to be commodity based that we don't really need to touch and feel, it's going online, as we can see, and it's really coming back down to that experiential activity.
Agreed.
Yeah. So when we come back, we've touched on sort of the change in the evolution of the downtown. We've talked about the influence and the programming that the downtown BIA has had and continues to have. When we come back, we're going to talk about creating an environment that brings people into the downtown and hopefully, I guess, supports the market-driven idea that the longer people are downtown, the more they're going to spend and the more they're going to patronize the local retailers.
Absolutely.
So we'll pick that up when we come back from our break. Welcome back. We're here with Wayne Hay, Chair of the Downtown Barrie Business Association, as well as a commercial broker with Remax Commercial, and Craig Stevens, who's the managing director, of the same Downtown BIA. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. We've been having a great dialogue and a great conversation about what makes a thriving downtown, what makes a downtown a place that people want to engage in and actually live in, and we want to grow that downtown. Yep. We were about to go, we were looking at some photos and we're about to go in and look at some of the other projects, but Craig, I wanted to ask you, first of all, not only are you the managing director of Barrie's BIA, but you also participate on the Ontario BIA as a vice president. Yes. So tell us about that and where you're getting your data and your vision to bring to Barrie and go forward as we grow as a city?
Yeah, no, that's great. Thanks for asking that. It's really important for the audience to know that downtown Barrie is actually part of 300 plus other downtown areas, and as part of the Ontario BIA Association that I'm on, that's who we represent. That, just to put into other numbers, represent 50,000 businesses in the province and a combined budget of $50 million that gets reinvested back into those main streets. And so the fact that downtown Barrie is part of that group, that association, that collective numbers really, has an impact. And so our audience, as part of the Ontario BIA Association, is with the province and saying, hey, main streets are a really important part of our economy as a province, and that we should look at the investment into those. And one of the great reports that we've done just over this last year is actually measuring the return on investment of main streets. And proud to say that downtown Barrie was part of that. And what we looked at, as part of our contribution is saying, what if downtown Barrie was a single business? How would we fare within the rest of the city? And some quick numbers is, if we look at employers, if we took all the employment of the 400 plus businesses that's in the downtown, we'd be the #1 private employer in the city, and we'd be the #4 public employer in the city.
Wow.
And so, it kind of puts a different perspective on the downtown. A lot of times we'll look at it as those mom and pop shops and those corner stores and that kind of thing. But when we put it all together, we're actually pretty big. And so it's important to be able to reference that, and especially when we're comparing to other areas within the city or other cities in comparison.
So you're creating the voice for a lot of small businesses
Absolutely.
who are pouring everything that they've got really
Yes.
into their business, their entire investment, life investments into it.
Exactly, and I think when you again, just sort of taking in another layer, when you look at who are owners of these businesses, a lot of times they're our families, our friends, our neighbors. They're people right next door. They're not a corporation in sort of that big sense that we might know it.
So these are also people who live in the area as well. So they're business owners, but they're also residents, they're taxpayers on both fronts as
Yes.
well. But you got some inspiration, you've got some projects that have come out of this report
Yes.
and direction, and we wanted to go into that. So perhaps take us into what was the #1 thing that the study told you, and how have you been executing it?
Yeah, so the big takeaway out of that study, out of our strategic plan with Roger Brooks, was public realm investing into the public space between our buildings and making that a better place for people to come. And the #1 project was our Meridian Place Memorial Square
Let's
project.
take a look at that, because we only have a few minutes left, so take us through this.
Excellent.
So this is a kickoff. I'm going to let Wayne take it over because he's in this picture.
That was our that was our grand opening, which was about 2 years ago, and so that was our unveiling of the signage for it. Now, if you're downtown now, you'll see that the construction is well underway, and
Meridian Place is taking place where?
Meridian Place is part of Memorial Square, which is right
old
downtown.
Memorial Square.
Yeah, Memorial Square, which Memorial Square still exists. The cenotaph obviously has been moved, and I think there will be a slide in a moment on that, has been moved about 30 feet to the right, which will put it right center stage for Owen Street and all of our events. So Memorial Square is still there. Meridian Place is the rest of the project, which will include gathering area and outdoor performance center and so on. So it's a big.
There's a stage.
There is a stage. It's it's an outdoor performance center which we will be able to hold anywhere between probably 1,000 to up to 5,000 people
Okay.
if we turn it properly and go.
Just to pull us back to the slides we've just seen, which has been the actual moving of the
Of the
cenotaph.
cenotaph, yeah. So there
Which was an
great,
engineering feat,
That was an engineering feat. Actually, our contractors did a great job on that, and they moved the cenotaph
base
over,
there.
and
There it is.
beautifully done, well done, and in my opinion, it's turned out to be even better than before.
Oh, we're hearing
And
some
it puts it
great
in a
feedback.
place of
Great feedback.
prominence center.
Absolutely.
More people can
and
gather
that was
around
important
it.
for the unknown
And
soldier.
which for our Memorial Day services.
This is
will serve
our
well.
rendering of how the square will look, and down the bottom you'll see the stage, which has now been named, and the laneways, which are to the right and left to the access to Heritage Park and so on. So that gives you an idea. But Memorial Square is still at the top. Meridian is the rest of the.
So what's
Meridian
going to take place in this space?
There will be events, so we have obviously the stage, which will be music, we'll have a theater. We've spoken to all the theaters, they all want to be part of it. We can hold a large number of groups there, which will be great for that area of town.
So really we're dispelling the idea that the downtown in Barrie is really about solely food establishments.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, obviously there are countless proprietors of clothing stores, of galleries, of sports, you can get your hair cut, you can have a coffee.
Everything.
You can do anything downtown.
But
We've got a green grocer down there.
Yeah,
We're
and I
enabling,
think
we're embellishing the arts
Yep.
with the Meridian and as well as the Fisher of Auditorium that comes together.
Correct.
We've taken a simple gathering place that's existed forever and now bringing some focus to it and bringing more opportunity to do more things, celebrate more of our heritage and our, with Memorial Day and other festivities and celebrations. It's going to be a great focal point.
It will be a great
for our
focal point,
downtown.
and that will be. So we've worked on that, and now it's up, it's running, it's in construction. We'll have it ready for actually November 11. Will be a part of it will be open for November 11, and then our grand opening will be on June 1st.
So we've got 1 minute left.
okay.
Who's moving downtown? Who is the demographic that the downtown wants to serve? You're not going to get the 4,000 square foot, 60 by 120 lot downtown. So who's moving downtown? Who are you catering to? Who are you hoping to have downtown?
I think great question, and I think it covers the whole range. You're going to get people that are downsizing, retired, that want to still be close to all those things that we've talked about today. You're looking at the young families that I think maybe aren't going to go for the big houses of yesteryear,
Well,
and want
it's
something
cost
smaller.
prohibitive now at this
Yes.
point for a lot of that.
Exactly, and so they want something that they don't have to travel by car, they can walk by foot, and they have the amenities there that maybe the house doesn't have.
We are out of time. But Wayne, Craig, thank you so much for joining us. If you've got
Thank you.
questions,
Thank you
we'd
very
love
much.
to hear your feedback. Email hittinghome@gmail.com. And love to have you back to talk more about this project going
Definitely.
forward in the next few weeks.
Excellent, thank you.